Hi, I'm Jared Brandt. My wife and I are co-owners and co-winemakers for a little winery here in Berkeley, California named Donkey and Goat. A little bit about us. We trained in 2002 in France with a gentleman named Eric Texier. We learned, are following his philosophy, so we learned a lot about making wine in a very natural way. So in the winery, if you were to come visit us, you would see all the fermentation is done in wood. We don't inoculate, and what that means is we don't add yeast to our grapes. We let the grapes ferment themselves. We try not to add anything else to the wine, and we try to pick sites that express the site so that we don't have to manipulate the wine. This is an urban winery. We're in Berkeley, about, 800, 900 feet from I-80 and San Francisco Bay. We chose this location because it's very, very temperature stable. The bay cools our winery on hot days, and it warms it on cool days. And I'm going to taste you through 4 of our Syrahs that are currently available. 3 are from 2007, which was an easy, great growing year. 1 is 2006, which was a harder year, but I think our wine's shown through. To get right into the tasting, I'm going to start out with our 07 Broken Leg Vineyard Syrah. This Syrah is called the Recluse because in 2006, on a vineyard check, when I was in the vineyard, I got bit by a brown recluse, which is an interesting experience. It's a Broken Leg Vineyard. It's a super steep vineyard, and in the late 70s, the owner, a guy named Steve Williams, fell 2 days before he was supposed to go to France and broke his leg in this vineyard. It's a super cool climate vineyard. If you go to Anderson Valley, you're going to see predominantly Pinot Noir, some Chardonnay, often used in sparkling wines, and some Alsatian varietals, Gewurz and Riesling. We love this vineyard because it's so cool climate, and every year we tend to harvest it super late because of the cool climate nature of it. And in 07, my daughter was not quite 3, but we harvested it on October 26th, so she wore her Halloween costume. I can't actually remember what the costume was, but she wore it throughout the harvest, and she has a reputation among the harvest workers of wearing a harvest costume. When we taste this wine, there's a couple telltale signs of this vineyard that I adore, I love. It's about 97% Syrah, 3% Viognier. The floral components of the Viognier lift the Syrah out of the glass. We co-ferment them. We do this with one of our other vineyards as well. When I smell this, I immediately get some white and black pepper. I get lilacs. I used to call it violets, but it's very specifically lilacs. It's a different floral component. And some bacon, some other charcuteries. On the nose, I also often will get a little tobacco. And it's delicious. It's one of my favorite wines that we make. Part of what I get in this wine is the 2007 year. 2007 was a great year for growing grapes. All of our vineyards started the year early. It stayed cool, so we had really long hang times. So we got a lot of complexity to the wines without too much alcohol. On the mouth, it's very chalky tannins. It's almost like sandstone, it reminds me of. And it's got a nice long finish. There's some cherry components, some fruit, as well as the forest components coming through, maybe pine or cedar. And lots of cool climate wine components to this. It's got a lot of acid. The acid is there. It will go beautifully with a meal. It will go beautifully with bacon if you have wine for breakfast with your scrambled eggs. Next up is our Fonati Syrah. This is a vineyard in the foothills. It's a vineyard about 2,800 feet above sea level and right near the American River. El Dorado County is a wonderful appellation, but it's very different than a lot of other places in that little differences in direction make huge differences in temperature. It was grafted to Syrah in the 70s, and it's a great site, great location. It's one of our we work with a grower named Ron Mansfield, and he does exactly what we want in this vineyard, and it creates a wonderful wine for us. Like the Broken Leg, this wine is about 3% Viognier. And of course, when I smell this wine, the first thing that leaps out to me is the sour cherry. It always leaps out, but it also gets combined with a really nice aroma, or a floral aroma of violets. And this wine, I always find it's an interesting combination of spicy and feminine. There's probably a woman's perfume out there that is exactly what this wine represents to me. It has components when we smell it. I get some herbs like basil and mint, some minty herbs, maybe a tiny bit of thyme. I also get cherry, sour cherry. I also get tobacco on this wine and a little bit of cedar. And again, that sour cherry jumps through, bright acidity, lots of complexity. I believe this wine will age, I think all these wines will actually age for a long time, but this one will change a lot in the bottle. The tannins are very much there in this wine. When you taste it, it kind of goes through, coats your mouth, and hangs on. It has a nice long finish. The sour cherry component is one of the last flavors I get in the back of my mouth. I often, when people ask me to describe this wine, I say, well, it reminds me of Brézem, which is a Côte d'Rhône appellation in France, where the Syrahs are often got lots of sour cherry components. Probably these two wines, I would say, are very feminine wines, and we're going to now switch to more masculine wines. And my tasting order actually today was based on that kind of dimension, that I find a lot of wines, wines can be more feminine or masculine. In Pearly Vineyard, I like to taste the feminine ones first and then switch to the masculine. Next up is our 2007 Pearly Vineyard Syrah. This vineyard is located in the Mendocino Ridge, and the owner of the vineyard likes to describe this vineyard as farming in the wilderness. It is well beyond power or cell phone coverage or paved roads. I always find the Pearly Vineyard, this is only our second year working with the vineyard, but it's the vineyard that has the most, it's the most masculine of our vineyard, and when you taste through our wines, this will probably be the one that is easy to remember for that component. It's bigger, it's got a lot of more fruit, and maybe more typical Californian. For us, all the wine is made in a similar style, so it's more of a reflection of the terroir. The first thing that I get on this wine is a bit of pepper. A little maybe white pepper, some spicy components, earth spice, camphor, some big fruit, like big red fruit. It's definitely not a huge wine, but it's very masculine. That fruit follows through on the palate. The tannins are there. They leap out of both the glass and they coat your throat on the way down. And the fruit does as well. My guess is this wine, because it's got